Now, the Supreme Court of Appeal has ruled that trained pharmacists in South Africa can now provide HIV treatment and prevention services, including PrEP and PEP.
It's part of the pharmacy-initiated management of antiretroviral treatment program, which is aimed at making HIV care more accessible. The court dismissed an appeal by the Independent Practitioners Association Foundation, which had challenged the South African Pharmacy Council's decision.
Professor Linda-Gail Bekker, director of the Desmond Tutu HIV Centre at UCT, joins us now to discuss.
Linda-Gail, it's such a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for this. From a public health standpoint, we've already talked in the intro there about this being about accessibility. How significant is this judgment?
You know, I think it really is an important milestone. The country has the biggest HIV epidemic in the world, and most important that we treat all 8 million people living with the virus, and more importantly, that we get pre-exposure prophylaxis out to as many people who could benefit from it as possible. And this is just another outlet that I think is overdue to be used.
I'm sure we'll expand a little bit more on the accessibility question, but in opposing the program, let's just quickly touch on some of the criticisms that the Doctors Association had. They raised concerns about a dispensing pharmacist's ability to handle complex HIV cases. So how rigorous is the training process for this, and what safeguards are in place to ensure that the right prescriptions are made and the right people are getting the right medicine?
So our HIV response in the public sector is almost entirely nurse-run. And so there is a parallel program called NIMART, which allows nurses to initiate and management antiretroviral therapy when they are adequately trained. And so this is really just an extension of that to say, you know, we've made good use of nurses throughout the country, and this has been very important for getting antiretrovirals scaled up. And, you know, here's an opportunity to use another sector of the health response that, once trained, can certainly deal with HIV. It really has become a manageable condition. Certainly there are complicated cases, and those always need to be referred to medical practitioners. But your everyday case, everyday prevention opportunity can easily be handled by somebody who's trained to do so.
Linda-Gail, what about the flouting of certain procedures in getting this medication too? Because, you know, one wonders and one might be fearful that you get to a certain time when the trained pharmacist no longer goes through the rigorous processes they perhaps are supposed to in order for this to then be accessible, and maybe then even pricing changes completely. Are those not issues that could be at play here?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think we always have to be concerned that processes are followed rigorously. And so that does come down to ensuring that the program continues to be monitored, that, you know, we review our response at large. And this happens all the time within our public sector nurse-run program. And it's important that, you know, I think the idea here isn't that we release it without any kinds of review and control, but that we don't, if you like, shoot ourselves in the foot by saying these fears or concerns of what might happen stop us using an opportunity that can expand our program. And this is so important. One of the big aspects here is to try and decongest our health sector, the health system, which is, you know, we know, really overburdened. And so by, again, utilizing, I think there's something like 30,000 independent pharmacies throughout the country. Using this opportunity, I think, just makes perfect sense in a country where we're groaning under the burden of HIV care and treatment.
Bekker is with us, let us not forget, director at the Desmond Tutu HIV Centre at UCT. We're talking about access to antiretrovirals at pharmacies. Sorry for that quick interlude, but it's something to celebrate. And I don't know if you have a quick word, a message for Bafana, Linda-Gail, because they've now blitzed their way to the 2026 FIFA World Cup because they gave Rwanda a beating, 3-2 Easter eggs.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm just so excited. And go Bafana, Bafana. We're right behind you. And it's just what this country needs. So thank you to all the players and, as said, the technical team as well. We just, this is what we need.
And what delivered that victory was a team effort, similar to the collaborative effort we are going to need in terms of our HIV treatment strategy, because it's not the exclusive domain of doctors. I think that's what this ruling has now shown us. But what interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary collaboration is it going to take, Linda-Gail, to ensure that we do deliver this dream of making sure that these meds get to the length and breadth of our country and that they're given in these multiple sites now?
Yeah, I think you've said it beautifully. This is an all hands on deck kind of response. As mentioned, we have the biggest treatment program in the world. We've made amazing progress over many years, from the time of denial and no access to now almost 6 million people on treatment. But we have 2 million people still to find, and then 8 million people to keep on antiretrovirals for all of their lives. And then there is now this prevention aspect, the antiretroviral-based prevention of pre-exposure prophylaxis, which really needs us to get out to as many people as possible. And when you're using something as prevention, people need to be able to conveniently access the prevention options. And this is where pharmacists that are down the road in the malls, easily accessible, are going to make all the difference. So, I think I'm thrilled that the Supreme Court has seen the wisdom of this, and it's really important that we now join hands. General practitioners as well. We all need to get on board to say, let's bring this epidemic under control.
Yeah. What kind of infrastructure, though, Linda-Gail, do you think we would need to kind of track the outcomes of these trained pharmacists, to ensure accountability across the system, who delivers it, when it's delivered, who it's being delivered to, etc., as well, to ensure that this isn't abused and used incorrectly?
Yeah, I think all of us as health practitioners, whether we're pharmacists, nurses, or doctors, we have a code of conduct. And one obviously hopes that kicks in. And so there is some independent, autonomous kind of self-regulation that we hope applies. But on the other hand, it is important that we monitor the program as a whole, one, so we know where it may be slipping, but also so we know how well we're doing. And there's no doubt that in the HIV sort of world, we've made a lot of inroads in doing that as well. We have to report to UNAIDS, we have to report to WHO. So I think we do have reasonable ways of at least, keeping tabs on who's on treatment, who's not on treatment. But I will say, this is something that I think the country could benefit from, is a sort of one way of tracking health in general. And we've talked about this for a long time. And especially now as we're thinking about rolling out this lenacapavir, we saw the health minister yesterday announcing again that lenacapavir for treatment, the 6-monthly injectable, will be starting. We really do need to, in some ways, strengthen our ways of monitoring individual responses to treatment and prevention. So I think this is an area of work still that the Department of Health needs to tackle.
Because monitoring and evaluation is often the last step, but it's probably the most important step to determine the efficacy of the program in its current form, and then what changes need to be made going forward, which lead me to what happens right now. Of course, there's this immediate victory, I guess, for this court action. The legal battle, that part's now over. What are the immediate priorities in terms of rolling out this program nationally, and sort of what hiccups do you foresee in the immediate, Linda-Gail?
Well, the immediate is, and this was the second part of the sort of court ruling, is that the PIM-ART training needs to start. So there's no way you kind of just launch this and walk away. These pharmacists need to be trained and accredited, and it's a rigorous process. We've seen it applied in our nursing program, and similarly, this needs to be applied now to the pharmacists. So I think the next step will be setting up those PMART training programs, getting pharmacists accredited, and then beginning to roll it out in a carefully monitored, well-structured way. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but at least now it can get started.
Yeah, we're really hoping that this ruling does, in many ways, accelerate the progress towards that 2030 HIV elimination goal that South Africa currently has. Linda-Gail Bekker, thank you so much for the time.